rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everybody. All my whiskey warriors who are out there in the land. Oh, my goodness. Welcome to American Perspective. And for all of you guests, new people who might be here, hey, you know what? All you have to do is subscribe to one of my outlets, preferably Rumble, to become a Whiskey Warrior P1. That's how it works, baby. Anyway. Hello, everyone, Americans, all of you wonderful people that are out there. Oh, my goodness. I have got such a lineup of stuff for you tonight. And we will go ahead and get things kicked off with the great. That's great. Amy got her. Oh, she still has all her fingers because she never actually got to the chainsaw. For those of you that missed it, last night we were talking about, or Amy was asking somebody was asking what everybody was doing, and Amy said that she was going to be using her chainsaw. So anyway, all right, let's go ahead and kick things off with the great and wonderful rendition of today's Pledge of Allegiance by Pops McGroin of Rumble fame. So please, if you are of mind, take off your hats, put your hand over your hearts, and let's follow along with Pops and his partner as they recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America.
And, of course, I thank you, Pops and partner, for that wonderful rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance. Hey, if you want to get your rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance played here on the American Perspective show, you can do so. Record yourself, and then, of course, make sure that you send it off to me, the audio file. Send it off to me, to fans at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And I'll get you into the rotation. So I appreciate all of my Whiskey Warriors and fans who have contributed to that process. We'll get you into the rotation. I try to, in case you haven't noticed, I'm attempting to try and do like a male, then a female. Male, female, male, female. But we'll see what happens overall with that. But anyway, thank you, Pops, for contributing and making it in as one of my male personnel for that. All right. Tonight, our show is sponsored by the Institute on the Constitution, which was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission: to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government, as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.americanperspective.online, to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.americanperspective.online to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's iotc www.americanperspective.online, or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, go to constitution.americanperspective.online. Check this out. Is an 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around pages that are tear and water resistant, and check out that binding. It is not cheap glue, folks. This is stitched that goes all the way through the leather and everywhere. This has thick, rounded corners, according to my Rumble fans. It has a 100-year warranty against material defects and workmanship defects. You can return it, or if they can't repair it, they will replace it for free. It is buddy tested, buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved. And my youngest whiskey warrior has ensured that the internal contents will be able to get you to pass your civics exam. I also know there was somebody else who used it to pass their civics, a civics test in school as well. So this is a very popular document. You've got to go and get yours today. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online, purchase yours, and have a keepsake to hand down to your generations beyond, because again, there is that 100-year warranty on it. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online and get yours today. Also, don't forget, when you go there, you can also check out the rest of the Institute on the Constitution's work. You can go and check them out today. And I, of course, thank them for allowing me to be an affiliate of theirs. Okay. Got a big show up for you guys tonight, but first, of course, we have to tell you that I am drinking the Four Roses single barrel. There it is, Four Roses single barrel right here. Bonnie will be happy about that for sure. Anybody seen Bonnie yet? I don't think I've seen Bonnie yet, but anyway, she would be happy with that. And of course, I am drinking it out of the We the People glass. Oh, cool. I got a black background. Let's see. There you go. Now you can kind of see it. You can really see the reflection there, I mean, with it through the reflection, but there it is, the We the People Lucky Shot USA.com. And no, it is not a shot glass, but it is a rocks glass, tumbler glass, whatever. And of course, I have it in there with the whiskey stones in the bottom. Good stuff. All right. Background provided by, or sent in by, the great Buddy Weiser over on Rumble. Thank you, sir, for that. Of course, I've been featuring a lot of his patriotic backgrounds because he's a long time whiskey warrior, and he has sent me several backgrounds over the years, which is fantastic. Oh, hey, I like that, 3 Chevy. 3 Chevy says it takes stones to drink with whiskey. Now, of course, he's talking about drinking with me. That's cool. I like that. I may have to use that. You might want to trademark that there, 3 Chevy, before I take it. Anyway. All right. So let's go ahead and get things kicked off with, of course, a fan favorite. Here we go. Let's try this again. A fan favorite. There we go. On this day in American history. And of course, for On This Day in American History, we read from the American Patriots Almanac, written by William J. Bennett and John T.E. Cribb. It is chock full of all kinds of wonderful information and factoids and historical things regarding this great United States. And tonight, oh, this is nice. Tonight, we're going to talk about if there is no struggle, there is no progress. On August 3rd, 1857, in a speech at Canandaigua, I'm not even sure I pronounced that correctly. I apologize for anybody that lives in New York that knows where that is. New York, abolitionist Frederick Douglass reminded his fellow Americans of the costs of freedom. His words, which foreshadowed the coming Civil War, are among the most famous of his many orations. The general sentiment of mankind is that a man who will not fight for himself when he has the means of doing so is not worth being fought for by others. And this sentiment is just. For a man who does not value freedom over himself will never value it for others, or put himself into any inconvenience to gain it for others. The whole history of the progress of human liberty shows that all concessions yet made to her august claims have been born of earnest struggle. The conflict has been exciting, agitating, all-absorbing, and for the time being, putting all other tumults to silence. It must do this, or it does nothing. If there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom and yet deprecate agitation are men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the awful roar of its many waters. This struggle may be a moral one, or it may be a physical one, and it may be both moral and physical, but it must be a struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. Find out just what any people will quietly submit to, and you have found the exact measure of injustice and wrong which will be imposed upon them. And these will continue till they are resisted with either words or blows, or with both. The limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those whom they oppress. That is tonight's On This Day in American History. Frederick Douglass, a great patriot and a great man, one who pushed for and helped to ignite the idea of the freedom of slavery in America, and of course helped to foreshadow the Civil War. Incredible number of words. Great orator. I mean, the guy was just a great speaker, and just fantastic of that. All right. And Tommy, to answer your question, I don't know how long that was before the war. Not in that particular one. Well, wait a minute. It said on August 3rd. Hold on. Hold on. So 1857. So this was only probably about 3 or 4 years at the most before the war. So there you go. Anyway. All right. Well, we've had our answer. The left took off and started calling Donald Trump a chicken. And in fact, they even started to actually make some halfway decent memes. In case you didn't know, the left really has a hard time memeing. But anyway, they had some halfway decent memes about Trump chickening out on his debate that was supposed to take place on ABC and was scheduled, of course, to be with Kamala Harris. But he has now announced that he will debate Kamala Harris on Fox News. He wants it to be held on September 4th, and he wants it to be held in Pennsylvania, which is a battleground state for both of them. Now, of course, the minute that he announces this, the first thing that the left does is start saying that, well, wait a minute, we already have one set for September 10th on ABC. And yeah, he, again, and of course I strike back and basically told everyone that I could find, especially on X, on the socials. I said, look, the contract that was signed for the debate on the 10th was done with Joe Biden. The minute Joe Biden stepped out of the race, that nullified that contract. And now, what ends up happening is this is a new contract. A new contract with the newly installed Democrat nominee. Oh, I haven't really gotten much responses on that. I mean, other than the fact that the left obviously seems to want to just rip on Trump for, quote, being afraid. But, you know, it's funny. I seem to recall Trump went into the lion's den just this past week against the National Association of Black Journalists, the NABJ, went into hostile territory there and, you know, did quite well, actually, in the long run. But apparently what also happened, too, which a lot of the left doesn't seem to understand as well, is that Trump actually has now a lawsuit against George Stephanopoulos. And yes, I am purposely not saying his name correctly. And ABC. That lawsuit, if you recall, I actually remember reading an article about it. That lawsuit was actually decided to be able to move forward just within the last couple of weeks. And so he has an actual conflict of interest with ABC, so he's not allowed to be on their broadcast. So her holding out and saying, which, by the way, she's already basically denied it. She's already said, hey, I'll be waiting on, you know, September 10th on ABC. Well, that obviously shows how stupid she actually is, because she doesn't understand the oh, wait a minute. Wasn't she a freaking prosecutor? So she should actually understand the idea that Trump is not under any legal obligation anymore. So, yeah, anyway, you know, the morons of the left, they just don't seem to understand all of this. And I'll get to some more things here in just a minute when it comes to laws that they don't seem to understand in just a little while, a little bit later on in the show. But apparently she has decided to not respond. And, yeah, so we're just going to have to see where this actually goes. I mean, Trump can actually legally cannot go to the one on September 10th. So, again, she either shows up on the 4th or it's nothing. And that's exactly what Donald Trump basically said. Now, the left, of course, is going to try and swing that into some sort of oh, he's afraid of her. He's afraid of again, black woman. Well, I hate to tell you this, but I'm starting to see, and I'm trying to dig up actual information, but I saw that somebody had traced back or had shown and demonstrated that even her father doesn't call himself black. And I'm going to try and hunt that down for everybody, but apparently he has somewhere, and again, I'm going to need to find this, but he has somewhere stated on record that he is Jamaican only because of living in Jamaica, and that he claims himself to be of Indian and Irish heritage, which, if that is the case, that kind of blows that whole she is black out of the water. So I'm going to try and dig and find it. I don't know how successful I'll be, but apparently he did like an interview or something where he stated that, no, I'm Jamaican only because I live there. I'm not actually black, and that I am Indian, and that I am Irish, of Irish descent. So, boy, if somebody can find that, if somebody does find that, you know, I'm gonna release the whirlwind of the Whiskey Warriors. If you guys can go out and find me that clip, and then of course submit it to tips@americanperspective.online, that would be fantastic. That would be fantastic. So, because I would love to be able to slap back on a bunch of these people. And, you know, this is part of the reason why I call her a person of color, because technically she is a person of color if she is Indian. I mean, she, you know, but outside of that, I can't necessarily call her black. So if you guys happen to run across it and I haven't found it first, that would be fantastic if you could do that. But anyway, like I said, I've been hearing it, but I haven't found any definitive proof as of yet. Some people have posted on X and said, and have like screenshots of a poster on X that had it. But again, it's not a, what do you call it? It's not a definitive proof. I need to actually have video evidence of him saying it. That would be perfect. And some people have actually posted her birth certificate apparently online, where it shows that he writes as a you know, he and his wife. His wife claims to be Caucasian, and then he claims to be Jamaican on her birth certificate. Now, again, don't know how real that actually is. They're facsimiles, pictures of facsimiles, or something like that. Yeah, we'll just have to kind of see. Yeah, right. And of course, we can't forget Pocahontas. I mean, I'm sorry, Puxatawny. No, wait a minute. Elizabeth Warren. That's right. Who was what? 1 in 1024th Native American when she was claiming to be Native American. And I actually have images of her claiming to be Native American on one of her applications or something like that in her university. So, yeah. Anyway, it's like Dems are going to do what Dems are going to do. I mean, let's face it. Kamala Harris did that speech in Atlanta, Georgia here recently, coming from Canada and California, and tried to do a Southern accent, and also tried to do, well, I'm going to call it Ebonics, but basically kind of like dropped into the whole Ebonics thing, as well, where she was talking about, we going to do it again in 2024. Not 2024, 2024. So anyway, yeah. I just don't, I don't get it. She's chameleon, or chameleon. Anyway, whatever. You remember that song? Yeah, that could have worked with Kamala Harris. She's a chameleon. She's trying to be a chameleon anyway, but we see her for what she is. So that's pretty much about it. Well, apparently there is a video of her as well where she kind of hates Christmas, I guess. Or at least, so let's be honest. I mean, the headlines are where she hated, where she hates Christmas. But the fact of the matter is she was discussing the children that were coming across the border in, during the Trump administration, and she kind of goes off on some press about it. Let's go take a look at this. Oh, I didn't cue this up. I'm a bad boy. Anyway, all right. So let's go take a look at this. And here on Woke Spy, Vice President Kamala Harris is looking at, the never-ending list of the border, crime gangs, the economy, so on and so forth. But apparently she also was mad about Christmas. So here is the video. Take a listen. It's short. Trust me.
Merry Christmas and wish each other Merry Christmas. These children are not going to have a Merry Christmas. How dare we speak Merry Christmas? How dare we? And when
how dare we? Anyway, she started off the whole thing. I had it queued up a little farther along, but anyway, she started off the whole thing when we all sing happy tunes and sing Merry Christmas and wish each other Merry Christmas. And this was back in 2017 at a press conference where she goes, these children of illegal aliens are not going to have a Merry Christmas. How dare we speak Merry Christmas? How dare we? Kind of reminds me a little bit of, what's her name? Greta Thunberg with the, how dare you? You know, yelling, of course, at the, yeah. Anyway, yeah. How dare you? Anyway. So, yeah. So this is kind of the person that, of course, we're dealing with. Let's just put it that way. We all know who she is. She wants to try and be the karma chameleon. Chameleon. Well, one of the things that I talked about here not too long ago had to deal with the fact that she's had, reportedly, and analyzed a 92% overturn in her office. By that, I mean 92% of her office has actually, like, left. These people don't like her. They just don't. Well, Kamala Harris's public inauthenticity stems from reportedly being psychotic behind closed doors. That sounds a little bit familiar. I seem to recall, let's see, what was her name? Hillary. That's right. Hillary Clinton tried to be the chameleon, tried to be the one who was the, you know, she carried around freaking hot sauce in her purse to try and identify with black people during her campaign in 2016. Anyway, that's reminiscent of that. But so she apparently, obviously gave that really horrible word salad stuff in front of the cameras when those people were released, which, by the way, we have a couple questions of the week this week. One of them is going to be sort of short and sweet and to the point with regards to Joe Biden and his walking into the other plane. But I digress. So she's lost. She is completely lost. And so Jennifer Van Laar, Laar, she had a report, and here, let me just show you. This came from Red State. Here's the X post. And she posted a report or a thing regarding her berating of her staff. So Jennifer Van Laar says, let's post this on X. Maybe this is why 90% of Kamala Harris's staff quit on her. From a very involved Democrat family in Northern California whose son interned at Harris's office when she was the California AG. Quote, Harris vocally throws around F-bombs and other profanity constantly in her berating of staff and others. As AG, Harris instructed her entire staff to stand every morning as she entered the office and say, "Good morning, General." Yeah. You know, I'm going to be honest with you. That sound in the military, whenever the commanding officer walks into the building, you, of course, say, attention, at least in the Army. And 9 times out of 10, before the word attention even gets all the way out of that person's mouth, or, you know, whoever first spots the commanding officer, that's who calls it out. 9 times out of 10, before the word attention gets all the way out of that person's mouth, they are already saying, carry on as you were, or something along that lines. Okay? And so, yeah, it's, she's just, you know, she's got a big freaking head. Apparently Gregory, who is the reported person, Gregory was also given instructions to never address Harris, nor look her in the eye, as that privilege was only allowed to senior staff members. Now, I can tell you that I've done some work for some very, I can't say who, but I've done some work for some very important, or what would be considered important people in this world. These people are very, very rich, and they oftentimes had requirements where you would have to move out of the room when that person entered the room, because they didn't necessarily want to see, like any of the help. I have heard that be the case in a lot of places. So the reality of it is that I can sort of understand where, you know, some of the lower underlings not being looked. Now, I don't agree with it. If I ever become, you know, supremely rich or whatever, forget all that crap. I'm a human being just like all of them are. Just because somebody happens to have money doesn't mean that they basically can go and, you know, give a big double FU, you know, here, I'm a family friendly middle fingers there, in order to do this. And so, yeah, I don't understand the thought process behind these people who think that just because they happen to be in a position that might be a position of power, that they can just, you know, overwhelm the people who work under them. They are there because of the people who work under them. Now, keep in mind, of course, respect goes two ways. You know, I'll respect you, but you also have to respect me. And this is part of the problem. In fact, Steven Stiles and I were talking about public entities and public people who essentially, you know, get this idea for whatever reason that they're like super special and they can't be talked to. But at the same time, I can also understand that at the same time, I can also understand that if somebody who is, you know, famous or whatever is just out and about in public, not doing an actual public event, okay, like signing papers or whatever, or signing books or something, that they're out at a public event, I can understand if they're just out and about having lunch or dinner or breakfast or whatever. You don't need to be running up to them and asking them for their autograph. That's the whole thing. I mean, I've seen famous people such as Dog the Bounty Hunter, for an example. Pete Carroll, who used to be the head coach of the Seahawks. I've seen him out in public. I'm not going to go running up to them because they're not doing a specific public event. Now, if they were signing books, then I could understand it, because that is a specific public event. They are there in order to do those kinds of things. But you don't need to be bum rushing them. I saw a video, and this is one of the things that I was talking to Stephen about. I saw a video of Hulk Hogan, who was on a cruise ship with his family. He's on vacation, for God's sakes. And they had to like rope off the table that he was at. He's sitting there eating breakfast, and everybody's like yelling at him, trying to get him to sign autographs. And he just basically looked at the crowd and says, "Look, guys, I'm just trying to sit here and eat breakfast with my family. Can you give it a break?" So yeah, this is just one of those things where when they get into power, they think they are the greatest thing since sliced bread, and that's what they do. Now, you also remember, too, that Biden was reportedly swimming naked in the White House pool and requesting female Secret Service agents to guard him while he was doing it. Frickin' sicko. Anyway. Okay. So, obviously, the truth is eventually going to come out on Kamala Harris, eventually, or maybe not. Maybe it won't come out. And the reason why it won't come out is because of the fact that, according to a Dem strategist, this in the Daily Caller, according to a Democrat strategist, they told some CNN hosts that Harris will be defining herself with ads. So she doesn't need to actually do interviews. So we may not actually get her because now she knows, hey, this is an Achilles heel for her, is being off script, off or on camera in uncomfortable situations, being asked questions that don't have a scripted response. And this is her Achilles heel. And this is part of the reason why I think the debate, although chances, right now it doesn't look like it's going to happen, but the debate would be absolutely stellar for definitely for the Trump team. Sorry, I got distracted there. But anyway, so in this piece, Democrat strategist Julie Roginski on Friday told CNN's host Kate Boulden that Vice President Kamala Harris does not need to do interviews because she will be spending money on ads to craft her own message. Harris hasn't sat down for an interview since launching her presidential campaigns after President Biden dropped out and endorsed her. Roginski on CNN's News Central told Boulden, typical Americans don't care about Harris not doing interviews and that she should not face scrutiny for avoiding them after the host said Republican Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio has been attacking the vice president on this issue. Yeah, well, so she says, this is something that you guys all care about as reporters. You want to sit with her, but the truth of the matter is, when I'm sitting around my dinner table thinking about how to pay for my college kid, or college for my kid, or how to afford my mortgage, or any of my taxes, except... So, yeah, she's going to spend reportedly somewhere around $300 million redefining herself. And I do say even though the piece says here, redefining herself on TV and social media the way she wants. Yeah. Yeah. So, guys, we need to figure out a way to shame her into getting into an interview situation. And I hope that somebody somewhere can do that, can push this. I know I'll probably push it, but this is kind of damning, and it sort of tells you kind of what they are thinking, that this is her Achilles heel. Putting her in front of a microphone, like I'm doing every single day, 6 days a week. Putting somebody in front of a microphone to be able to sit here and discuss and talk and answer questions and be able to eloquently expound upon your ideas and your thoughts is just nuts. So anyway, they need to get her in front of a microphone. I'm sorry. They just do. They need to get her in front of a microphone. That's how it needs to work. All right, well, Riley Gaines, who is an ardent supporter of no men in sports, came out here recently and said a vote for Kamala is a vote against your daughter's future. And here is the exchange that she had with, I can't think of who this gentleman, Jesse Waters. That's it. Here's an exchange she had with Jesse Waters on Fox with regards to this. Take a listen.
One of the biggest gender controversies of the year in the Olympics. And Kamala Harris hasn't said anything, and she hasn't even been asked about it. And that's a cover-up. And that's a real shame. Crickets. All right.
Crickets from Kamala, crickets from the women at The View. And if I could implore you, a vote for Kamala is a vote against your daughter's future. I see lots of people on social media saying they will be voting for Kamala because she is a woman. Well, let me tell you, Jesse, I will be voting for Trump because I am a woman.
So there you go. Riley Gaines is voting for Trump the way that she should, actually. That's just the way it should happen. But she's not wrong. I mean, Kamala Harris is focused on things like men in women's sports and not protecting women and so on and so forth. God, just look at that picture between her and that male swimmer. Can't even remember his. his freaking name. But anyway, yeah, jeez. Anyway, she is definitely wrong. Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you, if you think that Kamala Harris is horrible, and Kamala Harris is a, just horrendous person, if you think Hillary Clinton was a horrendous person, you really should take a look at some of the activists that are tied to VP Harris's campaign. Why am I saying this? Well, it's because of the fact that several of the people who are working toward trying to make her the first woman president, especially the first woman person of color president, because that's their mantra right now. That's the only thing that they have to run on at this point. And so I got to tell you, I have not seen this level of racism from anyone on the right, from anyone in the Republican Party, but I guarantee you that anyone who is a Democrat, they literally are the racist. They are hearkening back to their roots. And by their roots, I'm talking about the pre-1865 and after, all the way up to and slightly beyond the Civil Rights Act that they filibustered and tried to stop. Take a look at this. This is in Fox News. So supposedly there was there's a pair of black activists who have actually met with Vice President Harris several times and have vowed apparently to get real serious about helping her to become the next president. These two, called Cora Masters Berry, and who is an appointee of Democrat DC Mayor Bowser and longtime civil rights activist, and then also Melanie Campbell, who leads the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation. They reportedly have visited the White House more than 50 times combined during the entire Biden administration. But here's the thing. Before they were sworn into, meaning Biden and Harris were sworn into office in 2021, Berry and Campbell participated on a Zoom call, and it was a public Zoom call in which they made controversial statements about Trump supporters and used an expletive against white voters, specifically white women. And of course, they are both black women. So approximately 164,000 white women at the time hopped on a Zoom call last week, which was organized by Moms Demand Action founder Shannon Watts, who's white, and or at least I think she is, and other female celebrities. The call, which was titled White Women Answer the Call, reportedly raised millions of dollars for the Harris campaign and could be doing some major fundraising over the next few months. However, during that call, they made some comments in there that that were kind of derogatory. So Berry said during the Zoom call, "We have to change our strategy. We have got to get our people. We have to get they got their people. They got all the trailer parks covered. All them people up in West Virginia and the hills, they're covered. They got them all the way there to Wall Street. Trump did that. And we're sitting here talking about the white women? F the white women. Excuse me, forget the white women." Yeah, right. Continues. "They're going to do what the white men tell them to do," Berry continued, eliciting laughter and clapping from Campbell. Campbell interjected, "What they tell themselves." Berry continues, "They be smiling in their faces. They want to stay in charge," with Campbell reacting affirmatively in the background. "I don't care nothing about them. We got to do what we got to do." Barry went on to say that the black community has to get real serious about organizing to elect Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States, and that she doesn't want no women's parade. Well, I hate to tell you this, folks, that is the only thing that they have for Kamala Harris right now, is that she is a person of color and she is a woman. That's it. That's it. That is completely all that they have. Where is her policies? Where is she on her policies? Oh, by the way, I'll tell you, she's flip-flopped on everything. In fact, she's tried to completely 180 herself, which is why they don't want her in front of the cameras doing any sort of interviews. They want to make sure that the ads, the scripted ads, that they put them together, and they went ahead and send that out to the people. Oh, this is honest. This is the real Kamala la 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 Rama Lama Ding Dong Harris. This is her. Yeah. No, it's not. It's not going to be. So don't be surprised if she does not get in front of a camera in unscripted moments in the near future, or potentially at all, which is part of the idea that that she just can't stand in front of a camera without a teleprompter or a book or a script in front of her. Yeah. Also, just as a side note, Barry also attacked supporters of President Trump, comparing them to the Ku Klux Klan by saying, I'm not saying everyone who voted for Trump is wearing a white sheet, but they got one in their closet, and it comes out when we start messing with the economic value or the balance of power. Well, I'm going to tell you this right now, sweetheart. The Ku Klux Klan was Democrats. They utilize identity politics, and they utilize them all the time. The Democrats are the party of racism. The Democrats are the party of sexism. The Democrats are the party of hate. The Democrats are the party of violence. There is no question about that. All you have to do is open your eyes and look at the past 8 years. Let's just go 8 years, and you can take a look at all of that. But they're blind. They've got blinders on. All right, let me take a break before I get into my next subject. So, you see this wonderful yellow-orange shirt that I'm wearing. Let me show you what the front looks like really quick here. Take a look at that. It's got the snake, the rattlesnake, I'm telling you. And then, hey, let me turn around and show you the back. Look at that. Holy smokes. That thing looks awesome. It's got a great snake on it, and right below that big snake on the back, it says, "Don't tread on me." Where did I get this shirt? Well, I got it from this wonderful place called theflagshirt.com. That's right. All one word, theflagshirt.com is where I got this. And most, if not all, of my patriotic stuff, other than my logoed gear, which I wear every once in a while. But you should go and check out all of their patriotic clothing and apparel. They have a 50% off sale going on right now through the month of August. And all of their selected wear that they are, well, let's be honest, they're trying to get rid of it. It's 50% off. So go and check it out. Go and see if there's something there that you like. And when you go to theflagshirt.com and go to check out all of that wonderful things, don't forget to also visit flagshirt.americanperspective.online in order to get an additional $5 off coupon code to enter in a checkout in the promo code box. Go to theflagshirt.com and as you're perusing all of that, open up a new browser window and go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online to get yourself that $5 off coupon code. Now, if you're at theflagshirt.com and checking out all of their clothes and stuff, and you see a whole bunch of stuff, if you get an order more than $75, they will give you free shipping. So go and check them out, theflagshirt.com, and check out all of their patriotic gear. Go to theflagshirt.com and get yourself patriotized, like me. All right. So, some news broke in the case that is happening over in D.C. And of course, the leftist lunatics in the social media categories all went nuts when they found out about this, because they seem to believe that this is going to be their swan song on Trump, that finally somebody somewhere is going to get him, even though they've tried 1,000 times before and have been shot down 1,000 times. Well, here's the thing. Apparently, Judge Chutkan has announced some scheduling of hearings. Now, if you recall, sorry, I got distracted. Thanks, guys. Over on Rumble, just blaming you. So if you recall, the Supreme Court ruled that there are levels of presidential immunity. Now, that is pretty much the same thing that I can tell you that, everybody with a brain and understanding of the Constitution pretty much already knew this. I mean, it's been accepted for over 200 years that it's this way. But for whatever reason, the Democrats had to have it pushed out in some sort of a format. And I've actually put on the social medias, I've got a great little graphic that was put together. I showed it here on the program that kind of tells you, basically, is a flow chart question and answer diagram to figure out whether or not somebody has presidential immunity over something, or if they don't. Now, that being said, the time limit on that decision has now passed, and so the decision was passed down to the appellate court, which in their case, they went ahead and passed it down to the lower court, meaning that Judge Chutkan has finally gotten her freaking orders to move forward in the allowance from the appeals court to allow her to actually start looking at this stuff. Okay. Now, she has already claimed apparently that Trump's immunity doesn't apply. However, there are some rulings that she is going to have to go through. They have to go through all kinds of evidence to determine whether or not the immunity categories that were defined by the Supreme Court apply here. So, and it's been a month. This in the Washington Examiner. It's been a month since the Supreme Court announced its ruling on presidential immunity, and now President Donald Trump's election interference case is set to resume. Now, you recall, Judge Eileen Cannon actually threw out the classified documents case, not on the immunity, but on the fact that Jack Smith was unconstitutionally appointed. Now, don't be surprised if you see that show back up here in the Chutkan case. In the terms of his lawyers should be asking her about that decision and basically saying, hey, here's the arguments, you need to, in the motion, and we'll see what happens here. Now, it's kind of interesting, though, is that and the Eileen Cannon case, if Chutkan decides to not go with the proper ruling of the Constitution, the constitutionality of Jack Smith's appointment. And I'm going to get into that again here. I'm going to go back through it here in just a minute. But if she decides to dismiss that or whatever, now you have conflicting rulings, and that will end up in front of the Supreme Court. So we may have, regardless of what these leftists seem to believe, we're not going to get any kind of a ruling out of this. It's highly unlikely to happen on this. Okay. For all of this. All right. So The thing about it is on Friday, the Supreme Court's immunity ruling was sent back to the District Columbia Circuit Court of Appeals, which in turn sent it down to Judge Chutkan at the district court level to address. Chutkan was expected to receive the High Court's order, known as a mandate, on Friday, and legal experts have predicted the judge will soon provide a schedule update for Trump's cases in the coming days, which I think she already has. The Supreme Court, of course, found on July 1st that presidents do enjoy some immunity from criminal prosecution. And so now, if Mr. Smith decides to move forward with charging Trump, we know he's going to, the special counsel will now likely have to scale back his indictment significantly based on the Supreme Court's ruling. Chutkan is essentially tasked with determining which actions in the indictment are immunized and which are considered private actions that can still be used against Trump. So all of this kind of crap is, this is going to, this is literally going to highlight and I'm telling you, this is a train wreck in action. We're slowly watching a train wreck here because of the fact that you're going to see the potential that, her ruling, Chutkan's ruling, is going to collide with Judge Eileen Cannon's ruling in regards to Jack Smith. Now, we're going to have to see how this plays out. However, there's chances of all of this process actually getting done before the election is fairly slim at this point. Because again, if Chutkan decides that, okay, Jack Smith is constitutional, okay, and that the motion gets denied, it'll go and get appealed, and then it'll go up to the appeals court, the appellate court, and then, of course, eventually run into the Supreme Court. So the problem here is that all of the leftists are thinking, oh my gosh, we got him again. We got him again. And no, they actually don't, because again, this is part of the process, folks. Just calm down, relax. This is part of the process. But let's take a little bit closer look on the whole thing with regards to Jack Smith's appointment. Now, Justice Thomas, and I told you this, Justice Thomas wrote the concurrence in the Trump versus the United States. And as a part of that concurrence, he actually outlines the entire case against why Jack Smith is a unconstitutional appointment as special counsel. And he outlines this specifically in a couple of different ways. The first one being that there is no statute. As of right now, there is no statute that specifically defines the office of the special counsel. Now, wait a minute. Somebody be like, well, hold up. How is it possible if there's no statute? Then he got anointed this way. Well, there's a couple things that are going on here. First of all, you have to understand U.S. code. So U.S. code is the, whenever you see a law, it's USC. That stands for U.S. code. U.S. code is laws that are written by Congress. Then underneath that, you have what's called a CFR, okay, which is, let me see. I gotta call this out. Where is it? Okay. So it's this guy, I think. So the CFR, which is underneath the code, and the CFR, which is, that is I can't remember. I don't have it right here in front of me in terms of the CFR, but the CFR is essentially a regulation. That's what the R stands for. It's a regulation that is written by the particular executive branch department and refers up to the United States Code. So the USC just basically shows you in terms of this is what the statute is that was put together by Congress, and the regulation is written in order to provide a little more detail, a little more direction, that kind of thing that is based on and refers back to the law that would institute it. Well, the problem here is that the statute, the original statute that created the idea of the independent counsel, expired in 1999. So because of the fact that the statute that created the office of the independent counsel, not special counsel, but independent counsel, ever since then, the CFR written by the DOJ has been what has been assumed to be the de facto law to create the office of the special counsel. Well, now, if you recall, here not too long ago, the Supreme Court shot down what is considered the Chevron deference doctrine, which was essentially that the courts were supposed to look to the regulatory body in order to be the de facto expert in interpreting the law. So now you see how all of this kind of ties together. The de facto standard is no longer that you have to go by whatever the regulatory body says is the law. And so now what you have is you have an office of special counsel that, constitutionally speaking, was not properly created. Because as Justice Thomas points out, the Constitution states two things that have to occur in terms of creating what is considered a primary office. First is that the primary office has to be created by statute, meaning that Congress has to create that. The second thing is that whoever sits in that office, because it is considered a primary office that was created by law, that the second part of it is that whoever sits in that office has to be nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate. And that is essentially the two things that is the problem. So, and it pretty much says that if the office had been established pursuant to the laws of the United States, meaning that the Constitution has to essentially, and the Congress has to be the one to create the offices. The executive branch can't just create an office, which is interesting because the FBI was basically created by the executive branch, although the FBI falls under the Department of Justice, so that may be where that falls in. But anyway, I digress. Point is that Justice Thomas wrote a very clear message that basically stated, look, you guys, I don't believe this is constitutional and we need to have a court case checked out about it. And this is exactly what Eileen Cannon utilized in order to dismiss the case and kick Smith to the curb. Now, remember, Smith is going to, or reportedly is going to appeal that. Okay? But that is essentially the situation in that we're in. And Justice Thomas pointed out as a part of that decision that Attorney General Garland cited no real statute that creates an office of the special counsel. Instead, the statutes upon which Garland relied in appointing Smith merely provide general authority to appoint officials to offices that are already created by law. Now remember, keep in mind, the office of the independent counsel, not special counsel, but independent counsel, expired in 1999. So, yeah. Anyway, this is a train wreck going to happen, folks. It is on its way, and I personally am, for one, I am sitting here just salivating, waiting for this thing to show up, because I'm sure it's going to hit the Supreme Court, and who knows how they're going to view. But Justice Thomas has clearly outlined the legal case and the legal ramifications of the entire situation, and like I said, I am waiting with bated breath for that to show up. But is any of that going to happen before the election? I doubt it. I doubt it. So let those leftist, Marxist morons talk all they want about Judge Chutkan and where she's going to go with it. because I guarantee you, Trump's lawyers will do just fine getting it appealed and holding it up even further. All right. Not too long ago, I discussed about how non-citizens are potentially voting in our elections and that they are basically being registered and everything else. Well, here I go. Sorry, not to say that I'm right. I mean, it's, you know, I hate to self-praise stinks, but here. Ohio's Secretary of State finds 500 more non-citizens who have been registered to vote. Yeah. 500 more. And not only that, but I think I've even showed you this video before, but I'm going to show it to you again. Not only that, but here is an undercover video by the Oversight Project talking to people who are admitted illegal aliens or non-citizens, and they claim that they have already voted. Take a listen.
Are you already registered? We already voted. You already voted? Yes. Are you a citizen or?
No.
Have you already been registered or?
Yeah.
Are you a citizen or?
No.
Have you already been registered at work? Yes, we have. You've already been registered? Are you a citizen or not a citizen?
No es.
The apartment complex Elliott Norcross in Norcross, Georgia, is occupied primarily by non-citizens. We visited the complex to ask residents 2 questions. Are you a citizen and are you registered to vote? Shockingly, 14% of respondents admitted to being non-citizens registered to vote.
Buenas, disculpe por molestar. Venimos con una organización que se dedica a registrar a la gente hispana para poder votar en las elecciones. ¿Ya la registraron a usted o? Ya. ¿Y fue en el trabajo o vino alguien a tocar? Ok. Muchas gracias. Y oiga, ¿y usted es ciudadana o? No. ¿Ya la registraron en el trabajo o en un lado?
Bueno, sí, nos dijeron, pero...
¿Ya se registró?
Pues yo creo que sí.
¿En el trabajo?
Ajá, sí.
Oh, ok. ¿Usted es ciudadana o no es ciudadana? No es. ¿Ya los han registrado en el trabajo ustedes?
All right, I'm not going to play the whole thing, but for those of you who might be listening on the audio portion of the program, they're basically asking every single person that they run across at this place, are you registered to vote? We represent a organization that helps people get registered to vote. Are you registered to vote? And pretty much everybody so far in the video has responded in the affirmative. They are registered to vote. Then the next question is, are you a U.S. citizen? And the respondents in the video all say no, they are not. The Democrats want you to believe that just because it is illegal for non-citizens to vote in federal elections, they want you to believe that it's not happening. Just like they want you to believe that if you are not the person who is supposed to vote, that you're not getting double ballots, you're not getting voting ballots from people who no longer vote there, that dead people aren't voting. They want you to believe that voter fraud is not occurring. This video is evidence that it is not only occurring, but it's being done willingly. Now, I've told you on this program multiple times, the problem is the 1993 Motor Voter Act. That's the common name for it, okay? The SAVE Act, S-A-V-E, maybe it wasn't the SAVE Act, but anyway, the SAVE bill that was turned down by 100% of Democrats. They do not want a national requirement to use ID, or they don't want a national requirement to have to vote in person and prove your citizenship before you register. They call that election suppression and voter suppression. And they liken it to things like Jim Crow laws. It's not, has nothing to do with it. but they want you to not find out that they are leveraging these things. Because 90% of illegal aliens that come here and 90% of immigrants who don't know any better all vote Democrat. That is a huge voting bloc. That is a huge voting bloc for them. But they will never, ever admit that the fraud is happening. This is exactly why we have the problem that we do in this country. In fact, you recall when I did that full week or so expose on illegals voting in our elections, that there was a study done on the old 2008 elections that is questioning whether or not the illegals who voted, proven to have voted in that election, very well could have swung it in the wrong direction. That they could have affected it. Now, many states don't even ask for citizenship. I know my state here in Washington doesn't. They'll hand out driver's licenses to anybody who can pass the freaking test. And they don't even care, honestly, here, they don't even care if they can speak English because they have books, the study book guides and everything in all languages. So it doesn't matter to them. And they will willingly hand out a driver's license, which is part of the reason why I have been advocating on this program, as well as other places, that the only acceptable legal ID for federal elections should be a U.S. passport. That's it. Because the U.S. passport requires you to, of course, prove your citizenship. Shouldn't be any other, none of these driver's licenses, no other picture ID, all of these state laws that with regards to prove that you're a citizen by showing me a utility bill, okay, that you prove that you live here by showing us a utility bill. No. That is it. Yeah, these guys, they just don't, you know, the Democrats want this to happen. They want it to happen. That's what they're looking for. All right, couple little quick things, and then we'll get on to the question of the week. I don't know if anybody noticed this. It probably flew under the radar. I know I didn't really say anything about it. But here, recently or as early as this week, there was a plea deal that was proposed for the accused 9/11 mastermind and his accomplices. Now, the original plea deal was essentially taking the death penalty off the table, okay? But thankfully, and I'm not advocating for him, but a broken clock is right twice a day. And so this guy actually kind of falls into that, he disappeared for quite some time. But anyway, here in the Epic Times, Defense Secretary Austin revokes plea deal. Austin said the decision-making authority for this case should rest with him. And so he revoked it, and it was made earlier this week, but he revoked it. And it was supposed to, the original plea deal was supposed to spare the death penalty from those folks. And in a memorandum addressed to Susan Escalier, the convening authority for military commissions, Austin withdrew Escalier's authority to enter into pretrial agreements with Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and two of his alleged accomplices. He told her that this authority sits with him. And he said, as a part of that memorandum, I have determined that in light of the significance of the decision to enter into pretrial agreements with the accused in the above referenced case, responsibility for such a decision should rest with me as the superior convening authority under the Military Commissions Act of 2009. Effective immediately, he continues, I hereby withdraw your authority in the above reference case to enter into a pretrial agreement and reserve such authority to myself. So on July 31st, the Department of Defense's Office of Military Commissions announced that it had entered into a pretrial agreement for the 3 defendants after years of incarcerations at Guantanamo Bay. The OMC is the one that's prosecuting the case, by the way. The plea deal took the death penalty off the table in exchange for life imprisonment for the 3 defendants. I'm not even going to bother trying to read their names. But anyway, revoking the plea deal effectively puts the death penalty back in place. So thankfully, somebody at least got a little bit of a brain. So yeah, there you go. Anyway. They killed over 3,000 people. Not all Americans either, but 3,000 people in a very spectacular manner, caused all kinds of problems, terror, gave us the freaking Patriot Act, which is not a good thing because that's what was used to try and railroad and spy. Well, it actually was used to spy on Donald Trump and all of our FISA court stuff. Freaking bastards. Anyway. All right, one more. So, you know how I've been telling you how the Middle East has been kicking off and starting to get worse? I mean, let's just face it. Hezbollah attacks, then responses by the Israelis who have taken out Hezbollah and Hamas commanders in assassinations and those kinds of things. Yeah, well, the U.S. is now going to respond and help, or maybe not necessarily help. But apparently, according to the Epoch Times also, the U.S. is sending more fighter jets and warships into the Middle East in case of escalation. There already is escalation. People have been killed. Children have been killed because of these guys who are going around and they just don't care. They just want to kill people. But Iran, as you recall, over the course of the last couple of days, I told you that Iran has already said that they will do a retaliatory strike directly against Israel, which, as you recall, for the first time in several decades, Iran did send missiles toward Israel, and Israel and the U.S. and some other coalition forces shot them down. So, yeah. Anyway, the Pentagon said it would continue to take steps to mitigate the possibility of regional escalation by Iran and its proxies. Well, yeah, like we're going to stop them. I mean, seriously, Joe Biden loves Iran, wants them to get their freaking, nuclear weapon, supplies them with all kinds of money so they can do all this bullshit. Anyway, I mean, it's basically just setting us up to where we're going to end up probably, if we continue under the Democrats, we'll end up in a conflict over there. So yeah. Anyway, the United States enhanced, according to the piece, the United States enhanced its military posture in the region after the Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei vowed to take revenge for the killing of the Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh in Iran on July 31st. Deputy Pentagon Press Secretary Sabrina Singh said the defense chief has ordered the deployment of additional fighter jet squadrons, destroyers, and cruisers capable of ballistic missile defense to the Middle East. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin also ordered the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group to replace the USS Theodore Roosevelt, which is currently deployed in the region, Singh said in a statement. So, yep, here we go. Things are starting to heat up over there, and I'm not talking about the weather. All right. This freaking, I'm just telling you, this freaking administration. It's just absolutely horrible. All right, I'm done. Let's get on to tonight's question of the week. All right, we have a twofer tonight, which is it's refreshing. But the reason why I did the twofer, honestly, is because one of them is a very relatively short answer, so I didn't want to just gyp everybody for that. But the question came in from 3 Chevy, and it said, so when Joe got lost and wandered into the wrong plane, did that make the aircraft Air Force One for the 3 minutes or so that he was on it? And then he goes and continues and says, I guess we should congratulate him for not falling up or down the stairs. Inquiring minds want to know. All right, so here it is. Air Force One is a designation of a plane whenever the president steps on it. Air Force Two is the same designation whenever the vice president steps on it. The key here, though, is that it has to be military aircraft in general. So I do not specifically know if that plane was American military. It could have been. And if so, technically, it would have been. When he stepped on the plane, it would have changed over to Air Force One for its call sign. But that's the farthest down the road that it is. If they didn't do any radio calls, there wasn't any need to necessarily change the frickin' name. So no, I don't. I know it's kind of said facetiously, but yeah, technically, if they had decided to take off or whatever, then yes, it would have been considered Air Force One had it been a military aircraft that was an American military aircraft. Then yes, it would have been Air Force One. All right. Now, on to question number 2, which question number 2 is a little bit more in depth. So here we are. This one submitted by Buddy Weiser and is of a interesting historical topic, by the way. We're going to go on with this. So, good evening, my friend. I hope this question finds you well and with stout spirits. I have an inquiry for you with a short explanation. Here it is. As a young boy, I would sometimes walk the railroad tracks near my house and look for odd-shaped rocks and such. Spikes and other things like chunks of coal were found as well. The coal chunks fueled my imagination involving coal mines and coal trains I had seen in books at school. I also remember a chapter about animals used in coal mines. Hopefully you can tell me about the pit ponies that were once used in coal mines. And then he continues on and says, maybe a few warriors have remained to hear your answer. Thanks, Whiskey, and to my warrior friends for staying. Buddy Weiser. And then he goes, P.S. I heard some of the animals rarely saw the sun. Okay. So, as with anything prior to the mechanized era, we did use ponies, and we, meaning the United States, but we also, we're not the only ones. I mean, Canada used them, England used them. They were constantly used. So yes, they were used in the coal mines. Here's the thing. They actually used various sizes of horses in order to do this. And in fact, some of the places they actually used donkeys and burros too, by the way. Which, fun fact, a donkey or a burro, pound for pound, can actually outpull and outcarry a horse. Just as a fun little fact. But that being the case, they often used horses in the mines. And when they did, they would try to use small horses because the larger the horse, the more likely the horse was to scrape its head on the freaking roof of the mine because they had very low mines. Now, to kind of show you this or to demonstrate this, let me just go ahead and show you. Here's a picture of a pony in a mine, and as you can see, the mine shaft wasn't that great. It really wasn't that big. And they started off with carts. Originally, they would start off with wooden carts on logs that they would just sort of like roll the cart over. But then as things got and progressed and got a little more refined, they did use train tracks or cart tracks with wheels on them, metal wheels underneath. And some of the larger horses, as you can see here, they have it is a pretty large horse. You'll notice in this photograph, for those on the audio portion of the program, there's like this piece of cloth or something over the horse's head in between his ears. That was to prevent the horse from banging its head on the mine supports and scraping its head on the mine's rocks above. Now, what's kind of interesting in this, and here's another picture too that shows a horse that is in a very low ceilinged area where its back is almost scraping the ceiling of the mine. So the horses often had injuries to their heads and sometimes to their withers, which is where the neck and the shoulders connect. And because of the fact that the mine roofs were so low that they would scrape as they went. And so these horses actually received veterinary care. In some cases, the mining companies actually took better care of the horses than they did of the men, because a horse, for those of you that don't know, a horse takes a long time to actually train it to do something like this. In particular, because if you think about it, this is everything against a horse's instincts. A horse would rather be out in the open, because the best defense mechanism that a horse actually has is to run away. They do not like to be connected and penned up as a course of nature. Now, you can train that out of them, which obviously they did, but a natural bound horse, if it thinks that it's in danger, it's going to be in the next county before it even turns around to look and see, oh, did I run for no reason? Okay. So they had to train that instinct out of these horses in order to get them to go down into the pits. In fact, if you take a look at this drawing, and I'll show you a picture here in a minute of how they lowered the horses into the mines. They had to do it by block and tackle and pulleys to get them to drop them into the mine shafts. And here's another photo or another drawing depicting how they did it. And they would actually bind the horse's legs. They would blind them. They would here's an actual photo of them doing it. They had like all kinds of straps and stuff to lower the horse into the mines. And all of this is like anti a horse's instincts completely. Generally speaking, if you can cover a horse's eyes, they usually will calm down because they can no longer see. And so they have no idea where they're going or what they're doing. So usually if you can cover a horse's eyes, they're okay. But to the question as to whether or not these horses actually saw the light of day, that is actually fairly true. Usually what would happen is they would lower the horses into the mine, and they actually had stables down in the mines themselves. And so the horses would only come out of the mines when the work slowed down. And so, yes, technically some of these horses would not see the light of day for quite some time. But they also had, like I said, veterinarians on staff. So if a horse broke its leg or something in the mine, they would euthanize it right then and there. They would also potentially, if they couldn't save it, they would also, protect the horse's heads and backs and withers and all kinds of stuff. But that being said, that doesn't make it, please do not take that to mean that this was a glamorous job for these horses and that they were, very well cared for. They were a tool. They were considered a tool. And so they're not like the horses of today that you see people have, where they're more like a pet rather than actual livestock. They were a tool. They were an engine. They were designed, or they were trained and designed in order to do a job. And if they couldn't do that job, they would be handed off. Usually sold locally. If a horse couldn't learn and train well enough, they would go ahead and, sell the horse off to the locals. Now, the miners, in most cases, if a miner died in the mine, they didn't really care because there were enough men that they would go and later on after, and actually women were down there too, believe it or not, until the laws changed to protect the women. But they even had kids down in these mines as well. So it's kind of an interesting little deal about the pre-mechanization era of the use of horses in mining in mine shafts. But the treatments kind of varied from mine to mine too. So not everybody was treated quite the same way. But generally speaking, they were treated fairly well because the operators understood that if you don't have the horse, you can't frickin' pull the mine or pull the coal out of the mine. All right. That was a very interesting question. Thank you for that submission. And that, of course, rounds out our evening and the show. So do me a favor, if you haven't already, run on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account, and once there, find the American Perspective channel, and make sure you hit that green follow button to be notified whenever I go live. Also, too, if you already signed in by Rumble, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. I appreciate that. That'll get me on the leaderboard. As well, keep in mind that I will see you on Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. And one last little message to Coco Dominki. Coco, yes, I did receive your email. I will queue it up for Monday. We will see you on Monday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, folks. Be safe out there, and we will see you on Monday. Like I said, have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.
The previous broadcast was produced and is owned by Active Eye Media LLC. All rights reserved.